Hello BookTube! So today I am doing another Top 5 Wednesday, and I'll leave a link to the Goodreads group down below for topics. This week's topic is books to get you out of a reading slump. Now, the books I'm going to talk about are very particular to me. Essentially, all of these books have gotten me out of a reading slump at one point or another. They're also, generally speaking, the books that I reread most often because they are literally the titles that I turn to when I have a reading slump. Coming in at number 5 is the Harry Potter series. Now, admittedly, I've only read this series once all the way through, but I have read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone twice now, both times to get me out of a reading slump, and both times was successful. So I think, if nothing else, the first book in the series is really good at jump-starting my reading, at least. Some of that's probably to do with the fact that at the end of the day, it is a children's novel, so it's pretty simple, but it's also really fun, and there's something nostalgic about reading it. It not only makes you feel good in the moment, but it reminds you all those happy memories of reading it as a child. Coming in at number 4 is actually a series, and that is the Discworld books by Terry Pratchett. I have not read all of the Discworld novels, but I've read quite a few of them, and I own quite a few of them, and I love them. And I'm saying any of the Discworld novels because one of the great things about this series, it's a satirical fantasy series that satirizes not just fantasy, but also politics and social issues and history and racial issues and all sorts of stuff. It's a really deep series. And one of the great things about it is the books are ultimately standalones. They all take place in a world. And then within the series, there are kind of like sub-series. So there are different books that are connected. So you have like the Witches series. So it's different books in the series that all have to do with the witches in Discworld. That's just one example. So that means that there are different sections of the series that might appeal to different people. So for example, specific novels in the series that I have read to get me out of a reading slump include Going Postal. I've also read Mort on several occasions. Another one I've read is Equal Rights. The third book that I use to get out of reading slump is The Eyre Affair. This is the first book in the Thursday Next series by Jasper Fforde, which is one of the most underrated series, in my opinion, of the 2000s. It's incredibly funny. Again, it's a satire. Now, this book is really difficult to describe. It's definitely speculative fiction. It has elements of fantasy and elements of science fiction and elements of time travel in it. Now, it's about an alternative reality where literature is one of the most important things in society, and there is a department in the police force that deals with literary crime. And our protagonist, Thursday Next, works in that department. She's a literary detective. And it really just spins wildly from that. With that in mind, there's a lot of literary characters who are literal characters in this book who come to life, who have to be dealt with. So there are a lot of references to other novels, a lot of references to classic literature. So very much this is a story for people who love books. I think that's one of the reasons it's so great at kicking a reading slump, because it's funny. It's a great novel. It's not a particularly long novel, so it's easy to get through. It's an enjoyable read, and it also reminds you of all these other great books out there that you might want to read. My one criticism of this book, more so the series, is that I personally do not love the love interest, and I don't like the romance in it. But that's just me. I'm sure other people like it. Coming in at number 2 is the classic Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Now, I frequently reread this book. I just reread this book in October, and one of the reasons for that is that it's a great book. It is so enjoyable, and it never fails to fill me with so many delightful feelings, and that goes for quite a few of Austen's novels. But I think Pride and Prejudice is the least angsty and most just fun of them. And finally, the number 1 book I read to get out of a reading slump might surprise you, but that is Bridget Jones's Diary. I know, I'm Bridget Jones trash. Now, I haven't actually read the newest Bridget Jones, and I don't reread the second book, The Edge of Reason, very often, but I have reread the first Bridget Jones Diary many times, and many times to get me out of a reading slump. Part of that is because it's just so damn funny. It's a little uncomfortable to read now that I'm older. It was definitely funnier when I was 18, not approaching 30 at a fast pace. There's something so ridiculous and a little bit relatable about Bridget and the crap she goes through and the trouble she gets into and the problems she's having. She's having problems with her love life and with her career and with her just regular life and getting into shape and eating better and trying to learn how to do things. And it's just so funny that I think there's something cathartic in her failures and there's some joy in her successes. And in some respects, it's also a Pride and Prejudice retelling. So the fact that it's on this list is, again, not very surprising since Pride and Prejudice is literally on this list. I really like reading it when I'm having trouble reading anything else. Now, you might have noticed a theme on this list, actually. So we had a chick lit novel, a children's novel, an adult speculative novel, fantasy novels, and a classic. But one of the things that, even Harry Potter fits this description. One of the things that all these books share is that they are all funny. They all have a humor element to them, some more than others. And I think that's one of the reasons they all work really well. Sometimes you just need something that lifts you up, that makes you laugh, that reminds you why you love to read. And I think whatever genre you read in, humor can go a really long way towards doing that. Those are my top 5 books / series to get you out of a reading slump. Let me know what books you like to read to get out of a reading slump. Do you read any of the books off this list frequently? Let me know in the comments down below. We can have a great chat about it, and I'll see you guys all very soon.